When LeBron James, global icon, basketball legend, and activist, sent a handwritten letter to President Ibrahim Traoré, nobody expected the world to hear about it. But what shocked everyone even more was Traoré's response. Powerful, unexpected, and deeply personal, it left the internet on fire. You need to hear what he said. The gunfire crackled through the speakers as LeBron James froze mid-push-up in his private gym. On the television screen, crowds scattered across a dusty square while soldiers in mismatched uniforms established a perimeter. The chyron at the bottom read, "Tensions rise in Burkina Faso as President Ibrahim Traoré challenges Western powers." LeBron reached for the remote, turning up the volume as a young African man in military attire addressed a microphone with unwavering composure. "We are not asking for charity." Ibrahim Traoré's voice was steady, his English accented but clear. "We are asking for the dignity to determine our own future without foreign interference. Africa needs partners, not saviors." LeBron sat back on his heels, sweat cooling on his forehead. "No one's really hearing them," he murmured to himself. The sprawling 15,000 QFT Los Angeles mansion around him stood in stark contrast to the images on screen. Marble countertops, soaring ceilings, and a collection of championship trophies that gleamed under recessed lighting. But in one corner of his study, away from the basketball memorabilia, stood a bookshelf filled with volumes on civil rights, African history, and resistance movements. He showered quickly and returned to his study, opening his laptop to search for more information about Ibrahim Traoré. The results showed a 34-year-old military officer who had risen to power amid complex circumstances, now attempting to steer his country away from centuries of colonial influence. LeBron's mind drifted to his own childhood in Akron, Ohio. His mother, Gloria, struggling to keep the lights on, moving from apartment to apartment, sometimes sleeping on friends' couches. He remembered the mixture of shame and determination that came with poverty, the feeling that the world wasn't listening. "We've got different battlefields, but the same fight," he said to the image of Trey on his screen, without fully understanding why LeBron pulled a sheet of heavy stationery from his desk drawer. In an era of tweets and text messages, something about this moment called for pen and paper. He began writing, then stopped, crumpled the page, and started again. Words came, then faltered. Who is he to reach out? What right did he have to speak into another man's struggle? 3 hours and 7 discarded drafts later, his longtime friend Andre found him hunched over the desk. "Writing autographs by candlelight. Now," Andre joked, gesturing to the elegant fountain pen in LeBron's hand. "It's a letter," LeBron said without looking up to President Traoré of Burkina Faso. Andre's smile faded. The military leader. "Is this some new foundation project I don't know about?" LeBron finally looked up, his expression earnest. "It's not about projects or publicity. I just want him to know someone's listening." The final letter was 3 pages, long. LeBron sealed it in an envelope, addressing it with careful penmanship. Rather than sending it through his foundation or management team, he contacted a former teammate with diplomatic connections to ensure it would reach Traoré personally, without fanfare. 6,000 mi away, in Ouagadougou, a junior diplomatic officer named Michel was having the worst day of his career. Racing to deliver a portfolio of documents to the presidential palace, he collided with a street vendor's cart, sending papers flying across the sun-baked pavement. As he scrambled to collect them, a sealed envelope with no official markings slid into the gutter. Sarah Johnson, an African-American journalist who had been photographing street life for her feature on West African resilience, witnessed the collision, helping gather the scattered papers. She noticed the distinctive handwriting on the envelope. Her journalistic instincts sparked as she read the return address before handing it back. "Is that from LeBron James?" she asked, trying to keep her voice casual. Michelle palled, clutching the envelope tighter. "I'm not authorized to discuss diplomatic correspondence, but it was too late." Sarah had already snapped a photo with her phone. By sunset, the hashtag #LeBron Traoré was trending. Speculation ran wild. Was the basketball star negotiating some business venture? Planning a diplomatic visit? Making a political statement in the presidential office? Ibrahim Traoré received the news with a furrowed brow. It could be a publicity stunt, warned Aisha, his most trusted advisor. American celebrities often use Africa as a backdrop for enhancing their image. Ibrahim tapped his desk thoughtfully. Let's not jump to conclusions. I want to read the letter first. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, LeBron's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. His publicity team was in crisis mode, concerned about potential backlash from sponsors and fans alike. We need to get ahead of this, insisted his agent during an emergency call. Issue a statement clarifying that this was a personal gesture of goodwill, nothing political. LeBron's response was calm, but firm. I'm not clarifying or apologizing for reaching out to another human being. I stand behind every word in that letter. You don't understand the optics. I understand them perfectly, LeBron interrupted. I have spent my career being told when to speak and when to dribble. Not this time. As evening fell over Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré finally received the envelope that had caused such commotion. Dismissing his staff, he walked to the garden behind the presidential compound, settling beneath the spreading branches of an ancient mango tree, a spot where he often came to think beyond the constraints of his office. The paper was heavy, expensive, the handwriting surprisingly elegant. Ibrahim broke the seal and unfolded the letter, reading the opening lines. Dear President Traoré, your courage has reached across oceans. While our worlds may seem different, I recognized something in your words that echoed my own journey. When I was 9 years old, I had to choose between having enough to eat and having shoes that fit. My mother worked 3 jobs, but it was never enough. Ibrahim's eyes widened, then grew damp. His fingers traced the words as if to verify their authenticity. How could a man who now commanded millions, whose face adorned billboards across the globe, understand the particular ache of childhood poverty in Africa? Yet the letter spoke of shared human experience in a way that transcended continents and circumstances. How does he know? Ibrahim whispered to the evening air. How does he know exactly how it feels? The mango tree cast lengthening shadows across the garden as he continued reading. Unaware that the letter in his hands was already building a bridge neither man had anticipated, Ibrahim read the final paragraphs of LeBron's letter as the setting sun painted golden streaks across the garden. A single tear escaped landing on the creamy stationery. The basketball star's words about using his platform to amplify unheard voices had struck something deep within him. Suddenly, the crack of gunfire erupted in the distance. Ibrahim instinctively ducked. Folding the letter with practiced precision, Aisha appeared breathless, her usual composure fractured. Mr. President, we must leave immediately. There has been an attack near the northern border. The Security Council is waiting. Ibrahim tucked the letter carefully into his breast pocket directly over his heart. How many casualties? 12 confirmed, sir. Another village targeted. The presidential convoy sped through Ouagadougou's dusty streets, past markets closing for the evening, and children playing soccer with makeshift balls. The stark contrast between everyday life and looming crisis was the rhythm of governance that Ibrahim had come to know too well. In the Situation Room, military officers presented maps and security assessments. Yet Ibrahim found his thoughts drifting to LeBron's words. When people see only your strength, they forget you also carry pain. Mr. President, your thoughts on the reinforcement strategy. General Urago's voice pulled him back. Double the medical support along with military presence, Ibrahim ordered. These are not just security incidents, they're humanitarian crises. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, American media outlets were having a field day with what they called the letter diplomacy. Cable news pundits debated endlessly. Was LeBron overstepping? Was this celebrity activism gone too far? Social media erupted with both support and criticism. He should stick to basketball, declared one commentator on a primetime show. Maybe we should listen to what they're actually saying to each other, countered another. In her New York apartment, Sarah Johnson watched these debates with growing frustration. Having spent 3 years covering West African development, she recognized how the conversation was missing the point entirely. This isn't about LeBron, she told her editor during a late-night call. It's about what happens when two influential voices connect across divides we're told are unbridgeable. I'm going to Burkina Faso. This story deserves proper context. Back in Ouagadougou, Ibrahim sat at his desk before dawn official reports pushed aside to make room for personal stationery. Against the advice of his communications team, he had decided to respond to LeBron personally. They say it's politically risky, Ibrahim confided to Aisha as she brought his morning coffee. That engaging with an American celebrity could undermine our sovereignty messaging. And what do you think? She asked, having worked alongside him long enough to recognize when his mind was already made up. I think LeBron shared something human, not political. He spoke about using basketball to escape poverty. We have similar stories here, but few listen. His pen moved steadily across the page. This isn't about international relations. It's about recognition. Across town at Café Moussa, a young activist named Kofi had organized an impromptu discussion group. 24 young Burkinab professionals and students debated the significance of LeBron's outreach. Is it just another American trying to look good by associating with African struggles? Asked a skeptical university student. No, Kofi responded. This feels different. He spoke directly one human to another. No cameras, no press releases. Sarah, having just arrived in the country, observed from a corner table, struck by the passion in their debate. This wasn't merely about a celebrity's letter. It was about being acknowledged on the world stage. The next morning, Ibrahim's scheduled meeting with the American ambassador took an unexpected turn. Mr. President, Ambassador Richards began his posture formal. I must express concern about potential misinterpretations if you respond publicly to Mr. James. It could be perceived as leveraging his celebrity for political purposes. Before I could respond, his economic advisor entered with troubling news. Continental Resources, an American corporation, had abruptly withdrawn from a major infrastructure project, citing regional instability concerns. That afternoon, Sarah uncovered something revealing. Continental Resources was majority owned by the same parent company as Elevation Sports, LeBron's largest sponsor. The timing was too perfect to be coincidental. In Los Angeles, LeBron faced mounting pressure. Sponsorship. Representatives requested an emergency alignment meeting. This personal correspondence has created complications, explained a stone-faced executive. We need you to clarify that your letter doesn't represent endorsement of President Traoré's policies. LeBron leaned back, studying the worried faces around his conference table. You want me to apologize for writing to another human being for acknowledging his struggle? We're simply suggesting a statement that creates distance. No, LeBron interrupted. I'm not a politician, but I am a human being, and humanity isn't political. That evening, Ibrahim completed his response, not a formal state letter, but a personal one. He shared the story of his younger brother, Hamidou, who died at age 7 because their village couldn't access basic medicines. Some see these as statistics, he wrote, but we carry names and faces in our hearts. When the letter reached LeBron days later, he read it alone in his study, visibly moved. This isn't about politics, he told Andre afterward. It's about broken systems that keep some voices silent. Back in Burkina Faso, Kofi's friend Zara, a poet known for her powerful performances, debuted a new piece titled, We Are Children of the Same Wind. Video of her recitation went viral, crossing borders and language barriers with its message of shared humanity. Sarah, following the growing movement, discovered Kofi and Zara organizing a cultural festival. Inspired by the exchange of letters, slipping into the planning meeting, she noticed a tall American man quietly filming the proceedings from the corner. When he turned, she recognized Andre LeBron's longtime friend. He wanted to understand better, Andre explained when she approached him. LeBron isn't stopping with a letter. 3,000 mi away, LeBron James sat at his desk, staring at a blank check pen in hand. His expression reflected not the hesitation of uncertainty, but the calm of absolute conviction. Dust swirled in the afternoon heat as children sat cross-legged on the packed dirt floor of a rural schoolhouse 60 mi outside Ouagadougou. The building itself was little more than 4 walls, with a corrugated metal roof that amplified the temperature to nearly 100 degrees. No desks, no chairs, no books, just eager young minds and a determined teacher writing math problems on a cracked blackboard. The rumble of an approaching vehicle caused every head to turn. A white Jeep stopped outside and the children rushed to the windows. A tall, broad-shouldered man stepped out, carrying several large duffel bags. His American clothes and confident stride marked him as a foreigner, but his warm smile spoke a universal language. The children swarmed around him as he knelt down and unzipped the first bag, revealing stacks of notebooks, pencils, reading books, and several brand-new basketballs. Looking up, the man's face came into clear view. Not LeBron James, as some might have expected, but Andre, his trusted friend and emissary. "These are gifts from a friend in America," Andre explained through a local translator, "someone who believes in you." 500 miles away in Ouagadougou, Ibrahim Traoré reviewed security briefings in his office. The past 3 weeks had been challenging. Conservative elements within his government questioned his American celebrity friendship, while international media scrutinized every word he spoke about LeBron. Ibrahim had weathered military coups and terrorist threats, but this unexpected connection had created a different kind of pressure. "The education minister is here, sir," Aisha announced, interrupting his thoughts. The minister entered with a folder of documents. "Mr. President, we've received confirmation the LeBron James Foundation has established a $5 million education fund specifically for Burkina Faso. Unlike most foreign assistance, they're requesting that the disbursement committee be 80%. Burkinab citizens," Ibrahim nodded thoughtfully. "This isn't charity. This is partnership." Sarah Johnson had extended her stay in Burkina Faso, indefinitely captivated by how a simple exchange of letters had sparked a cultural awakening. She followed Kofi and Zara as they transformed their initial discussion groups into a nationwide movement using poetry, music, and art to express Burkinabe identity. "We've always been told who we are by others," Zara explained during an interview in her modest apartment. "This moment has reminded us that we can tell our own story." Later that week, Ibrahim stood before international press addressing the collaboration directly for the first time. "We thank Mr. James for his recognition and support," he stated firmly. "But I wish to clarify something important. Burkina Faso doesn't need charity. We need partners who respect our sovereignty and vision." In Los Angeles, LeBron watched the press conference on his phone while sitting courtside before practice. 3 major sponsors had already withdrawn from his personal brand, citing alignment concerns. Sports commentators questioned his political naivety, and social media buzzed with both fierce criticism and passionate defense. "You're taking a financial hit for this," Andre observed, passing him a water bottle. LeBron shrugged. "Some things cost more than money to ignore." The following day, disaster struck. A private conversation between LeBron and his management team was leaked to the press. The grainy audio captured his unfiltered thoughts. "I don't care about the political calculations. I support who I choose to support. Period." The backlash was immediate. Stock and companies associated with him dropped. Political pundits labeled him dangerously uninformed about African geopolitics. Former supporters questioned his judgment. Meanwhile, Sarah uncovered evidence that Continental Resources, the company that had abruptly withdrawn from Burkina Faso, was illicitly extracting minerals in neighboring Mali without proper environmental controls or fair compensation to local communities. Ibrahim received an urgent call from his foreign minister. "Sir, we've received intelligence that continuing public association with LeBron James could jeopardize our pending IMF loan approval." For a moment, Ibrahim was silent, weighing decades of African nations being forced to choose between dignity and development. If the price of financial support is our independence to form our own relationships, then perhaps we need to reconsider the terms. 2 weeks later, against the advice of his security team publicist and business managers, LeBron James landed at Ouagadougou International Airport on a private jet. No media announcement had preceded his arrival, yet somehow, word spread. Thousands lined the streets not with political signs but with basketball jerseys, poems written on cardboard, and children perched on parents' shoulders. On the same day, Sarah's investigative report on continental resources exploitative practices was published in the Washington Post, sending shock waves through international business circles and vindication through Burkina Faso. The first meeting between LeBron and Ibrahim took place not in the presidential palace, but at the inauguration of a new school in Koubri village, the first of 12 being built through the foundation's funding. No press was allowed inside, but witnesses described two men who greeted each other not as celebrity and president, but as humans who had found unexpected common ground. As evening approached, they sat beneath the same mango tree where Ibrahim had first read LeBron's letter. The ancient branches spread above them like a canopy of history, witnessing this improbable connection. In our tradition, Ibrahim explained, reaching into his pocket, the mango tree represents continuity and nourishment. It gives fruit shade and then seeds for the next generation. He placed a large brown seed in LeBron's palm. This comes from this very tree. It may not grow in Los Angeles, but it symbolizes something important. LeBron closed his fingers around the seed. I'll build a special greenhouse for it. A reminder that some connections don't need the same soil to matter. Years later, LeBron stood in that greenhouse. Now, a 30-foot glass structure adjacent to his foundation's headquarters. The young mango tree, nearly 6 feet tall, thrived under specialized lighting and carefully controlled humidity. Around him stood a dozen young Burkina-based students on educational exchange, learning skills to bring back to their communities. On a small table rested a letter from Ibrahim, now internationally recognized for his reform efforts. The seeds I planted have taken root. LeBron smiled, looking at the fresh mangoes recently harvested from the tree, ready to produce a new generation of seedlings for the future. Thanks for following Ibrahim Traoré's inspiring journey. Subscribe and turn on notifications to catch more amazing stories from Vibeard. In a world divided by politics, culture, and power, rare moments of unity shine like diamonds in the dust. This was one of them, when LeBron James, one of the most recognized and respected athletes on the planet, took the time to write directly to President Ibrahim Traoré. It wasn't just a personal gesture, it was a statement. And yet, no one could have anticipated how monumental the response would be. The letter itself, as later revealed, was filled with praise, solidarity, and deep admiration for Traoré's fearless leadership in the face of global pressure. LeBron spoke not just as an athlete, but as a black man inspired by another black leader standing tall in Africa. He acknowledged Traoré's stand for sovereignty, his resistance against exploitation, and his commitment to uplifting his people against all odds. But what truly sent shockwaves through social media, news networks, and political circles was not the letter, it was the reply. Ibrahim Traoré responded with elegance, strength, and an honesty that few world leaders ever dare to express. In his own words, he thanked LeBron for recognizing the burden of leadership in a world where truth is often silenced. He didn't respond with political jargon or rehearsed diplomacy. He spoke from the heart. He wrote, "Your words reminded me that even across oceans, even from different arenas, basketball courts and battlefields, we fight the same fight, for dignity, for justice, for the right to stand tall without apology. You have a ball in your hand, I have a flag in mine. But both represent a people who refuse to be erased." That sentence alone ignited a global conversation. People from Los Angeles to Ouagadougou began sharing the letter exchange online, calling it the dialogue we've been waiting for. Hashtags trended for days. Commentators from ESPN to African news networks analyzed the symbolism of two giants, one of sport, one of state, finding common ground. This moment wasn't staged. It wasn't filtered. It was raw, human, and real. LeBron James, in a later post, called the reply one of the most powerful messages I've ever received in my life. It was no longer about basketball or politics. It was about connection, brotherhood, respect. In a time when the world desperately searches for bridges between continents, cultures, and generations, this exchange stood as a powerful reminder that respect knows no borders. that greatness recognizes greatness no matter where it comes from, and that sometimes words, when spoken from the soul, can shake the world, louder than any action. This was more than a letter. It was a meeting of legacies. And as history watches closely, one thing is certain. The pen still holds power, and in the right hands, it can move nations. Would you like a thumbnail prompt in the same style now?